Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into an incredibly fascinating ancient Buddhist text called the Kūṭadanta Sutta. And I am so excited about this one, because it literally takes us on a mind-bending journey. We're talking about a leap from the blood-soaked altars of ancient religious rituals straight into the heart of progressive socio-economic policy. It's a massive paradigm shift, so let's jump right in and break it all down.
All right, to really grasp the stakes here, I want you to picture the number 700. In the ancient village of Khānumatta, there was this wealthy Brahmin named Kūṭadanta, and he was gearing up for a massive, epic, religious sacrifice. His shopping list for this ritual was just staggering. 700 bulls, 700 male calves, 700 female calves, 700 goats, and 700 sheep. Okay, let's dive into this. That is a grand total of 3,500 animals waiting at the sacrificial post. Can you even imagine the sheer scale of that? The noise, the chaos, the mess? In the ancient world, a sacrifice of this magnitude was the ultimate flex of wealth and piety. But here's the thing. Kūṭadanta felt like he was missing something. He didn't know the exact, perfect rituals to make this massive undertaking truly flawless. So he decided to go straight to the Buddha for advice. But when he arrives, the conversation takes a total left turn. Kūṭadanta asks the Buddha this very specific, burning question. Is there an easier sacrifice with a greater reward? He basically wants to know if there is a better return on investment for his spiritual efforts. And the Buddhist response? Well, it kicks off this escalating masterclass in ethics, economics, and human psychology.
Section 1. The Economic Stimulus Plan.
So the Buddha responds with a story about a mythical ruler named King Mahāvijita. The king wanted to perform a great sacrifice, but his kingdom was completely plagued by violent crime. His chaplain steps in and gives him some pretty brilliant advice. He tells the king that trying to arrest, execute, or exile his way out of poverty-driven crime is the flawed method. Desperate people are just going to keep rebelling. Instead, he proposes the effective method, distributing his economic resources directly to the citizens.
The chaplain lays out what is honestly a remarkably modern, three-pronged economic stimulus plan. Check this out. First, provide seeds and food to the farmers. Second, provide capital to the merchants. And third, provide proper salaries to government officials. The logic and flow here are absolutely airtight. If you give your citizens a reliable, honest way to make a living, they won't need to steal. Giving people a foundation for economic stability rather than relying on severe punishment is the true foundation of a safe society.
The king actually implements this plan, and the results are completely profound. Look at the outcomes here. For the citizens, it was pure joy. They lived with open doors, and the text literally describes children dancing on their chests. For the kingdom, it becomes empty of crime, and the treasury is absolutely full. It's pretty wild, right? We have an ancient religious text making a pragmatic argument for wealth distribution over penal systems.
Now, Kūṭadanta is amazed that the kingdom is so peaceful, but, he still wants to know about the ritual. He asks the Buddha again, is there a sacrifice with even less effort and a greater reward? And so, the escalation arc continues.
Section 2. The Bloodless Ritual.
The Buddha reveals that the king did perform his great sacrifice, but only after the economy was completely stabilized. And what's really interesting about this part is how the entire definition of sacrifice shifts. Not a single animal is killed, no cows, no goats, no sheep, no trees are chopped down for posts. There is absolutely no forced labor. Everyone who helped did so voluntarily, with no crying servants. The offerings are entirely peaceful, just ghee, oil, butter, honey, and molasses. The violence and coercion are completely stripped away.
Kūṭadanta is taking all of this in, a peaceful sacrifice that doesn't harm animals or oppress workers, yet somehow yields greater spiritual fruit. It's a lot to process. But he's a seeker, and he presses the Buddha further. Once again he asks, is there a sacrifice with even less effort and a greater reward? The Buddha is really pulling him in now, building the suspense and raising the stakes even higher.
Section 3. The Ladder of Virtues.
Okay, we are now leaving the realm of physical, material sacrifices entirely. We're walking up a ladder of moral virtues. The Buddha explains that a better sacrifice than a bloodless ritual is providing regular alms. Better than that, building a dwelling for monks. Better still is taking internal refuge. And the highest rung on this ladder, far, far greater than pouring honey on an altar, is simply keeping the 5 precepts, refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxicants. The ultimate offering isn't what you burned, it's the immoral behavior you are willing to give up.
Kūṭadanta is absolutely floored.
The focus has completely shifted from outward grand gestures to inward personal conduct. But we aren't at the very top yet. For the final time, the hinge question is posed. Is there an ultimate sacrifice with the greatest possible reward? This prepares us for the absolute deepest teachings of this ancient text.
Section 4. The ultimate spiritual sacrifice. We now transition to the life of a monk, which requires the absolute ultimate sacrifice of giving up all worldly possessions and attachments. And the ethical purity required here is intense. Briefly summarizing these rules. The minor rules forbid harming, stealing, or even touching gold and silver. The middle rules forbid hoarding. And the major rules? They strictly forbid making a living through fortune-telling, astrology, magic, or medical quackery. They cannot even act as messengers. They must completely sacrifice any desire to manipulate the world for personal gain.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because as this perfect ethical purity is maintained, the progression is stunning. First, the monk enters the 4 jhanas, states of deep, tranquil, meditative absorption. Then, they develop profound insight into reality. Moving forward, they develop psychic knowledges like recalling past lives and seeing the mechanics of karma. And finally, they reach the absolute peak, the destruction of mental fermentations.
This peak is called a savakya. It is the realization that birth is ended, the holy life is fulfilled, and the mind is completely freed from ignorance, craving, and worldly desires. To put that into perspective, to the Buddha, this state of ultimate peace is the absolute highest sacrifice a human being can possibly make. It is the complete and total sacrifice of the ego and suffering itself. There is literally no higher reward possible.
Section 5. A changed mind.
Let's bring this narrative full circle back to Kūṭadanta. Remember, he started his day ready to butcher 3,500 animals. But through the Buddha's careful, step-by-step escalation, he experiences a massive paradigm shift. His response is immediate and beautiful. I grant life to these 700 bulls, 700 calves, 700 female calves, 700 goats, and 700 sheep. Let them eat green grass, drink cool water, and feel the cool breeze. True spiritual awakening didn't lead him to a bloodier display of power. It led to profound compassion and the preservation of life.
And that brings us to our final, provocative thought for this explainer. The Kūṭadanta Sutta challenges us to look at what we really value. Now, we might not be out there sacrificing animals today, but we all sacrifice our time, our energy, and our resources for things we think will bring us happiness and security. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder. In your own life, are your sacrifices creating suffering for yourself and others, or are they creating true freedom? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through ancient wisdom and economics. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.